Next we'll look at the tone curve. So if we minimize the basic menu here, bring up the tone curve, you can see here that we find like 5 different options for how you can adjust the tone. In this video, we'll just cover the luminance or RGB versions of these, where RGB just means you're editing all of the colors at once. So essentially the lightness or luminance, the contrast of the image. So the first one that's selected here is the very first option. And you can see that there are different options here with sliders that allow you to play with different areas of the image. So if you want to increase the highlights, you can just increase the highlights. Then the lights, if you want to increase the lights, or you could decrease them depending on your image. And then you could also decrease the darks. Right, and you can see, like, as we do like some of these edits where we do lights, darks, you end up with a lot more contrast in your image, right? The brights are really popping out and the darks are really standing out, right? This is not necessarily the most desirable edit, but like you can see there's a lot of contrast here. So if we try to reset this, I'm not a huge fan of these sliders. I don't really use it. I think it's easier just to go with this second luminous option. So this is the one I usually use for editing. And so if you come here, right, and the background, right, it's I think it's easier to understand with less sliders. You can see what is actually happening. So we mentioned the histogram before, right, and how the histogram works. You can see you're seeing in the background of this line is nothing but the histogram of the image. And so if you come to the top part of this image, right, that's the brightest point in the image. And then this point in the middle here would be the middle brightness or the midtones of the image. And then the dark, the right corner, left corner down here in the bottom is the darks of the image. And so by adjusting these at the like 1/4 points here, the 3 1/4 points, you can adjust the shadows and then the midtones and the highlights. So we can remember that from the basic menu, we were able to adjust the highlights, which would be the bright parts of the image on either on this right end here, and then the darks on the left side here. But this adds a midtone option where we can change also the midtones of the image. So for example, if we want to change the midtones here, right, we're going to change, it's going to adjust mostly the sky because the brightness is, the bright areas are the snow and the dark areas are the rocks. So in this image, mostly we would adjust the sky, which may not be the most desirable thing. So let's keep the midtones in the middle, but we have a few options here, right? So obviously if we want to adjust the highlights, right, we can increase the highlights a little bit here. You can see that also decreases the shadows a little bit. And so this is a really common way to add contrast to your image, where you come here and you decrease the shadows, increase the highlights, and then you can mess with the midtones to make it look the way you want. So if we increase the midtones, right, that's not looking so great. So let's decrease the midtones a little bit here. Like that's really making the blues pop. So yeah, so this is one way to use this S curve. So another few things that are really interesting to do is you can adjust the dark point or the light point. So if you, let's see, we're not going to be able to see a whole lot here. So if we adjust the dark point here, you can see that things become really messed up quickly. But you can see what it's doing. It's actually brightening, making the shadows or dark points brighter. So in this image, it's not really helping us a whole lot, but in some images with more like clouds or haze or something, you might, or maybe more dark areas than are in this image, right? You'll see more of a difference when you change the dark areas, like as opposed to this image where there's very few dark areas. So when you move the dark point, right, it doesn't have that much of an effect. So actually, I'm thinking the darks are a little bit too dark, maybe not that. So let's brighten them up just a little bit. And then for the bright point, you can do the same thing. You can adjust it. So you can see this brings down the bright point and essentially reduces contrast. You see that's really messing up the contrast in the snow, which really isn't desirable. So probably leave it. If we bring it back a little bit though, it looks like it's darkening the highlights so that the contrast in the snow is a little bit more visible, which especially down in the right corner of the image, if we bring it back just a little bit, I think that adds a desirable effect. So we can leave it like that. So we can refine the saturation. So apparently you can adjust the saturation here of the colors in your image, which we will discuss saturation more in another video. But yeah, those are the two main tone curve like features for editing the luminance or the RGB color is combined into the light of your image.